What happens when a beloved television personality finally reaches their breaking point during a live broadcast? Today, we're diving into one of the most shocking moments in daytime television history that left viewers absolutely stunned. The tensions had been building for weeks, but nobody expected what happened when Valerie Bertinelli appeared as a guest on The View. What started as a simple interview about cooking and family quickly spiraled into a verbal battleground that would change everything. The heated exchange became so intense that it led to an unprecedented live television meltdown that had producers scrambling behind the scenes. Before we get into all the explosive details, make sure to hit that subscribe button and let me know in the comments what you think really caused this dramatic fallout. The morning started like any other at the View studios in New York. The crew was setting up for what they thought would be a lighthearted interview with Valerie Bertinelli, who was there to promote her new cookbook and talk about her recent life changes. The producers had specifically chosen Valerie because they wanted a feel-good segment to balance out the heavier political discussions that had been dominating the show lately. What they got instead was a powder keg waiting to explode. Joy Behar had been having a particularly difficult week. Behind the scenes, sources say she'd been increasingly frustrated with the direction of the show and felt that her opinions weren't being respected by both the producers and some of her co-hosts. She'd been making comments about feeling undervalued and overlooked, especially when it came to booking decisions and segment planning. Little did anyone know that this simmering resentment was about to boil over in the most public way possible. As the cameras rolled and the show went live, everything seemed normal at first. Whoopi Goldberg introduced the segment with her usual warmth, welcoming Valerie to the table with genuine enthusiasm. The other co-hosts chimed in with their greetings, and Valerie seemed relaxed and happy to be there. She started talking about her cookbook, sharing some personal stories about rediscovering her love for cooking after going through some difficult times in her personal life. "You know, cooking has always been my therapy," Valerie said with a smile. "But lately it's become something even more meaningful. It's about nourishing not just my body but my soul." The audience was clearly connecting with her heartfelt words, and the interview was flowing beautifully. That's when Joy decided to interject. "Well, that sounds wonderful and all," Joy said with a slight edge to her voice that the others immediately picked up on. "But don't you think it's a little privilege to talk about cooking as therapy when so many people can barely afford groceries right now?" The comment came out of nowhere and completely shifted the energy in the room. Valerie looked genuinely surprised by the hostile tone. "I'm sorry, I don't understand what you mean by that," Valerie responded, trying to keep her composure. "I've actually been very open about my own financial struggles and how cooking helped me get through some really tough times. I'm not sure why you're making this about privilege." Joy leaned forward in her chair, her voice getting sharper. "Oh, please. You're a celebrity with multiple houses, talking about how cooking heals your soul. Do you have any idea how tone-deaf that sounds? While regular people are choosing between paying rent and buying food, you're here promoting another cookbook that probably costs $30. The tension in the studio became palpable. Whoopi tried to jump in, to redirect the conversation, but Joy wasn't having it. She continued her attack with increasing intensity. "And another thing. Why is it that every time a celebrity goes through a divorce or breakup, they suddenly become a cooking expert? It's like you all have the same publicist feeding you the same script about finding yourself in the kitchen." Valerie's face began to flush, but she maintained her dignity. "Joy, I really don't appreciate the personal attacks. I came here to talk about something that genuinely helped me through a difficult period in my life. I never claimed to be an expert, and I certainly never suggested that my experience was universal. I shared my story hoping it might help someone else who's going through something similar." "Help someone else?" Joy scoffed, rolling her eyes dramatically. "The only thing you're helping is your bank account. This whole reinventing yourself through cooking thing is just another celebrity cash grab, and frankly, I'm tired of pretending otherwise." The other co-hosts were now exchanging worried glances, clearly uncomfortable with how aggressive Joy was being toward their guest. Sarah Haynes attempted to step in, saying, "I think what Valerie is trying to share is really beautiful, and many people do find comfort in cooking during difficult times." But Joy immediately turned her fire toward Sarah as well. "Oh, you think it's beautiful too?" Joy snapped. "Of course you do. You probably think every celebrity's journey of self-discovery is beautiful and inspiring. Well, I think it's calculated and fake, and I'm not going to sit here and pretend otherwise just to make everyone comfortable. The audience was now completely silent, sensing that something was going very wrong. Valerie took a deep breath and tried one more time to diffuse the situation. Joy, I honestly don't know what I've done to upset you, but this feels very personal. If you have an issue with me specifically, maybe we should discuss it privately rather than attacking me on live television. That comment seemed to push Joy over the edge. She slammed her hand down on the table, causing everyone to jump. Personal? You want to know what's personal? What's personal is watching this show turn into a celebrity therapy session, where we're supposed to nod along and praise every has-been actor who writes a cookbook. What's personal is being told I need to be nicer to guests, who are clearly just here to sell their products. Whoopi finally had enough and tried to take control. Joy, I think we need to take a breath here and remember that we have a guest. But Joy was beyond reasoning at this point. She stood up from her chair, her face red with anger, and pointed directly at Valerie. Don't lecture me about taking a breath, Whoopi. I've been taking breaths for years, while watching this show lose its edge and turn into some kind of celebrity love fest. Well, I'm done taking breaths, and I'm done pretending that every C-list celebrity who stumbles onto this stage deserves our respect just because they wrote a book about finding themselves. Valerie finally stood up as well, her own patience completely exhausted. That's enough. I don't know what your problem is, but I'm not going to sit here and let you disrespect me like this. I came here as a guest, and you're treating me like I personally wronged you somehow. Joy laughed bitterly. Wronged me? Honey, you couldn't wrong me if you tried. You're not important enough to wrong me. You're just another aging actress desperately trying to stay relevant by writing cookbooks and talking about your feelings. It's pathetic, and what's even more pathetic is that we're supposed to pretend it's inspiring. The insult hung in the air like a toxic cloud. Valerie's eyes filled with tears, but she refused to back down. You know what's really pathetic, Joy? A woman your age bullying someone on live television because you're clearly miserable with your own life. I feel sorry for you. Those words hit Joy like a physical blow. Her face went from red to almost purple, and for a moment she seemed completely speechless. The studio fell into an eerie silence as everyone waited to see how she would respond. When she finally spoke, her voice was low and dangerous, barely controlled rage seething beneath the surface. Miserable with my own life? Joy repeated slowly, her eyes locked on Valerie. You think I'm miserable? Let me tell you what miserable looks like, sweetheart. Miserable is being a washed-up actress who peaked in the 80s and now has to write cookbooks to pay the bills. Miserable is having to reinvent yourself every few years because nobody remembers why they cared about you in the first place. Valerie shook her head in disbelief. This is unbelievable. I've never experienced anything like this in 20 years of doing interviews. What is wrong with you? No. What's wrong with me? Joy's voice was rising again, all pretense of professionalism completely abandoned. What's wrong is that I've been doing television longer than you've been relevant, and I have to sit here and listen to your sob story about finding yourself through cooking like it's some kind of profound revelation. What's wrong is that this show used to have standards. Whoopi stood up from her chair, clearly trying to regain control of the situation. Joy, that's enough. We need to go to commercial right now. But Joy spun around to face Whoopi, her anger now directed at her longtime colleague. Don't you dare tell me that's enough, Whoopi. You've been letting this show turn into a joke for years, booking these nobody guests and expecting us to treat them like they matter. Well, I'm not playing that game anymore. The other co-hosts were frozen in shock. Sarah looked like she was about to cry, and the newer panel members seemed terrified to say anything. The audience was completely silent, sensing they were witnessing something unprecedented. Behind the scenes, producers were frantically trying to figure out how to handle the situation, but the cameras kept rolling. Valerie, still standing beside her chair, looked directly at Whoopi. I think I should leave. This is clearly not about me, and I don't want to be part of whatever this is. She started to gather her things, but Joy wasn't finished with her yet. Oh, you want to leave? How convenient. Can't handle a little honest conversation. This is exactly what I'm talking about. These celebrity guests come on here expecting to be coddled and praised. And the moment someone asks them a real question or challenges their narrative, they want to run away. Valerie stopped and turned back to face Joy, her own anger finally reaching its limit. Honest conversation? Is that what you call this? You've done nothing but attack me personally since I sat down. You haven't asked me one legitimate question about my book or my life. You've just been cruel and nasty for no reason that I can understand. Cruel and nasty? Joy laughed harshly. You haven't seen Cruel and Nasty yet. You want to know what's cruel? It's watching talented people get pushed aside to make room for has-beens who think they can buy their way back into relevance with a cookbook deal. It's cruel that I have to pretend to care about your journey of self-discovery when there are real issues happening in the world. Sunny Hostin finally found her voice and tried to intervene. Joy, I think we all need to step back and take a moment here. This isn't productive for anyone. But Joy immediately turned on Sunny as well. Productive? You want to talk about productive, Sunny? What's productive about giving airtime to people who have nothing meaningful to contribute? What's productive about turning this show into a platform for celebrity therapy sessions? Whoopi. I'm tired of being managed and handled and told how to behave. This is live television. And sometimes live television gets messy. Deal with it. Valerie looked Joy directly in the eye and spoke with quiet dignity. I genuinely hope you get the help you clearly need, because this behavior isn't normal or acceptable. I'm leaving now. And I won't be coming back. As Valerie started to walk away, Joy shouted after her. Good. Don't come back. And take all your celebrity friends with you. This show doesn't need you or any of the other attention-seeking has-beens who think they can use our platform to sell their products. The cameras followed Valerie as she walked off the set with her head held high, leaving Joy standing alone in the middle of the stage, breathing heavily, and looking around at her co-hosts with wild eyes. The silence that followed was deafening. Sarah was the first to speak, her voice barely above a whisper. Joy, what just happened? That was so unlike you. But Joy's response was to laugh bitterly and shake her head. Unlike me? This is exactly like me. This is who I am when I'm not pretending to be nice for the cameras. I'm tired of pretending. Sarah. I'm tired of all of it. She looked around at her colleagues, and for the first time, there seemed to be a flicker of uncertainty in her eyes. Whoopi tried once more to salvage the situation. Joy, let's just sit down and finish the show. We can talk about this later. But Joy was beyond reasoning. She looked at Whoopi with something that might have been pity. Finish the show? You think we can just pretend this didn't happen and go back to talking about cooking tips and celebrity gossip? You think the audience is going to forget what they just witnessed? She gestured toward the cameras that were still rolling, capturing every moment of her breakdown. I don't know how to pretend anymore, Whoopi. I don't know how to sit here and smile and nod while this show turns into something I don't recognize. I don't know how to be fake and pleasant when everything about this feels wrong to me. The raw honesty in her voice was almost more disturbing than her earlier anger. Her colleagues exchanged worried glances, clearly unsure how to respond to this version of Joy they'd never seen before. In the control room, producers were having heated discussions about whether to cut the cameras, but the train wreck was so compelling that they couldn't bring themselves to stop filming. Joy looked out at the audience, many of whom were staring at her with expressions of shock and confusion. You all came here, expecting your usual dose of celebrity fluff and morning show banter. Didn't you? Well, congratulations. You got a real show today. You got to see what happens when someone finally tells the truth instead of playing the game. She turned back to her co-hosts, who were all still standing uncertainly around the table. And you all know I'm right. You know this show has lost its way. You know we've become a joke. But you're too scared to admit it because you don't want to rock the boat. The accusation hung in the air like a challenge. Sunny Hostin was the first to respond, her legal training kicking in as she tried to de-escalate the situation. Joy, we all care about this show and want it to succeed. Maybe we can have this conversation when we're not live on television. But Joy's laugh was bitter and mocking. When we're not live? You mean when the cameras are off, and we can all pretend to be friends again? When we can sweep this under the rug and go back to business as usual? No, Sunny. If we're going to have this conversation, we're having it now, while America is watching. She walked closer to the camera, addressing the audience directly with an intensity that was both captivating and deeply uncomfortable. You want to know the truth about what goes on behind the scenes here? You want to know why your favorite morning show feels different lately? It's because we've all been told to play it safe, to avoid controversy, to make nice with every celebrity who walks through that door. Whoopi stepped forward, her voice firm but controlled. Joy. This is not the time or the place for this discussion. We have a responsibility to our viewers, and to each other, to handle this professionally. Professionally? Joy spun around to face Whoopi, her voice dripping with sarcasm. You mean the way you professionally sat there and let that guest disrespect me? The way you professionally tried to silence me when I was telling the truth? Or do you mean professionally the way we all pretend this show is still relevant when we know it's becoming a parody of itself? The other co-hosts were now huddled together at one end of the table, clearly unsure whether to flee or stay. Sarah was visibly shaking, and even the usually composed Sunny looked rattled by Joy's increasingly erratic behavior. Joy continued her tirade, pacing back and forth across the stage like a caged animal. You know what the real problem is here? It's not that I was rude to that guest. The real problem is that nobody wants to hear the truth anymore. Everyone wants everything sugar-coated and sanitized. Well, I'm 68 years old, and I don't have time for sugar-coating anymore. She stopped pacing and looked directly at her co-hosts. You all sit there judging me for speaking my mind. But where were you when the producers started booking these irrelevant guests? Where were you when they started telling us to tone down our opinions? You all just went along with it because it was easier than fighting. Whoopi tried once more to reason with her longtime colleague. Joy. We can discuss all of these concerns. But not like this. Not in front of our audience. This isn't fair to them or to us. Fair? Joy's voice rose to almost a shriek. You want to talk about fair, Whoopi. Is it fair that I've given the best years of my career to this show, only to be told I need to be nicer? Is it fair that we have to pretend every celebrity cookbook is a masterpiece? Is it fair that we can't have real conversations anymore? Because someone might get their feelings hurt? The studio audience was completely silent now, many people looking genuinely frightened by what they were witnessing. Some were taking out their phones, recording what was clearly going to become one of the most talked about moments in television history. Joy noticed the phones and pointed at them accusingly. Go ahead, record this. Post it everywhere. Let the world see what happens when someone finally tells the truth on live television. Let them see what happens when someone refuses to play the game anymore. She turned back to the camera, her face flushed, and her breathing labored. You know what? I'm done. I'm done with this show. I'm done with these fake conversations. And I'm done pretending to be someone I'm not for the sake of ratings. The declaration sent shockwaves through the studio. Even the crew members who had been trying to stay invisible were now staring in disbelief. This wasn't just a meltdown anymore. This was a resignation happening live on national television. Whoopi stood up quickly. Joy, let's take a step back. You don't mean that. You're upset. And rightfully so. But let's not make any decisions we can't take back. But Joy was already untying her microphone, her hands shaking with anger or adrenaline, or both. I absolutely mean it, Whoopi. I've never meant anything more in my life. I'm tired of being told to smile and be pleasant, while this show turns into everything I never wanted it to become. She pulled the microphone pack from her waistband and set it down on the table with deliberate ceremony. I've been doing television for longer than some of you have been alive, and I've never been more disgusted with what it's become. The fake friendships, the manufactured controversy, the celebrity worship, all of it makes me sick. Sarah found her voice finally, though it was trembling. Joy, please don't do this. We can work through whatever issues you're having. The show needs you. Joy looked at Sarah with something that might have been sympathy. The show needs me? Sarah, the show doesn't need any of us. It'll replace me before my parking space gets cold, just like it'll replace all of you when your time comes. That's the reality of this business that none of you want to face. She began gathering her personal items from the table, moving with the mechanical precision of someone who had made an irrevocable decision. I started in this business when women had to fight for every opportunity, when we had to be twice as good and work twice as hard just to get noticed. And now, look what we've become. We sit around a table gossiping about celebrities and pretending it's journalism. Whoopi made one final attempt to save the situation. Joy, I'm begging you. Don't end it like this. Don't let one bad day destroy everything you've built here. Joy stopped what she was doing and looked at Whoopi with genuine sadness in her eyes. One bad day? Whoopee. This isn't one bad day. This is years of frustration finally boiling over. This is me finally admitting that I don't belong here anymore. And maybe I never did. She picked up her purse and walked toward the edge of the stage, then turned back one last time to face the cameras. To anyone watching this, who thinks I've lost my mind, you're probably right. I've lost my mind, trying to fit into a world that doesn't make sense anymore. I've lost my mind, trying to be polite when I wanted to be honest. I've lost my mind pretending that celebrity culture isn't toxic and that morning television isn't contributing to the dumbing down of America. The studio was so quiet, you could hear the hum of the cameras. Joy looked around at her former colleagues one last time. And when she spoke again, her voice was calmer, but filled with finality. I wish you all the best, I really do. But I can't be part of this anymore. I can't sit at that table and pretend that what we do here matters when it so clearly doesn't. I can't smile and nod while guests like that woman come on here to sell their products disguised as inspiration. With that, she walked off the stage, leaving her stunned co-hosts staring after her. The cameras kept rolling, capturing every second of the aftermath. Whoopi eventually found her voice and tried to address the audience. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back, she said, though her voice lacked its usual confidence. But Joy's voice could be heard from off stage, apparently addressing the producers. Don't you dare follow me with those cameras. I'm done being your content. Find someone else to humiliate for ratings. The show eventually cut to commercial, but the damage was done. In the span of 30 minutes, one of daytime television's most established personalities had completely destroyed her career in the most public way possible. The internet exploded immediately,